The city was alive with its usual daytime rush, but no one expected what would happen on that sunlit crosswalk, least of all the woman whose life was about to change forever. It happened in seconds. A screech of tires, a runaway delivery truck barreling through the intersection, and a woman in a pale ivory suit frozen on the pedestrian strip as she turned at the wrong moment. People screamed, the world tilted, and then out of nowhere a man sprinted into frame as if launched by instinct itself. He grabbed her by the waist, pulled her clear of the truck's path, and they tumbled hard onto the pavement. When she blinked, dazed and breathless, he was already rising. Their eyes met for half a heartbeat. She whispered thank you, but he didn't wait. He simply stepped back, nodded once, and before she could say another word, he disappeared into the swarm of lunchtime workers as if he had never existed. If you believe in kindness, in unexpected heroes, and in second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Touch of Kindness to support more stories like this. Ardenvale never forgot that moment. The woman he'd saved, Aurora Landon, CEO of a rising tech empire, had been inches from tragedy. Yet to him it hadn't felt heroic. It felt necessary, almost instinctive, a reflex born from a life spent protecting someone far more precious, his 8-year-old daughter Tessa. Arden was a man used to staying invisible, keeping his head down, and fading from anything that looked like attention. He wasn't built for the spotlight, he was built for survival. After losing his wife to an unexpected illness 5 years earlier, Arden's world had narrowed to a single priority, making sure Tessa grew up safe, loved, and with the kind of stability he never had. And so, right after saving a stranger's life, he'd done what he knew best: vanish before anyone could turn their focus toward him. But Aurora Landon was not the kind of person who let life-changing encounters slip quietly into memory. She felt the tremor of what nearly happened, the cold brush of death too close for comfort. She had built Landon Innovations from the ground up, carving her name in steel and ambition. But none of her power had been worth anything against a truck she never saw coming. And none of her employees, bodyguards, or assistants had been nearby. It was a stranger, no security clearance, no title, who saved her life. A man with calm eyes and worn work boots. A man who didn't even wait for a thank you. For days afterward, Aurora replayed the moment in her mind. She had a strange ache in her chest, not just from the fall, but from the haunting feeling that she owed her survival to someone who intentionally did not want to be found. But Aurora had built her empire on determination, and life had taught her to pay her debts. Meanwhile, Arden tried to forget the event, not because it frightened him, but because the idea of being noticed terrified him. He worked as a mechanic at a small garage on the east side, juggling long shifts with school pickups, homework, and bedtime stories. Money was tight, but he never complained. Tessa's smile each morning was payment enough. What weighed heavily on him, though, was the eviction notice taped to their apartment door that morning. He had 28 days to come up with the overdue rent or find a new home. He didn't have the savings, and the garage had been cutting hours. He'd already sold his old motorcycle, taken extra jobs fixing neighbors' lawnmowers, and cut back every expense except essentials. He refused to let Tessa know how worried he was. She'd been through enough in her short life. One afternoon, after a long shift under the blistering sun, Arden walked to Tessa's school to pick her up. She ran to him with her usual brightness, her backpack bouncing and her hair ribbons trailing. "Daddy? Guess what? I got a gold star in science today." He lifted her, spun her once, and kissed the top of her head. "I'm proud of you, Bug." These were the moments he lived for. But as they walked home through the crowded streets, Arden noticed posters taped to traffic poles. "Seeking hero from accident on 5th and Layton." His stomach dropped. The posters included a QR code and a message offering a generous reward. Landon Innovations had issued them. Aurora was searching for him. He turned away quickly, pulling Tessa gently toward the opposite side of the street, but curiosity nipped at him. On the poster, a grainy still shot from a nearby building's security camera showed his figure rushing into the street. His face wasn't clear, but the shape, the posture, he recognized himself instantly. He told himself the CEO had good intentions, but people like Aurora belonged to a world of polished glass and guarded elevators, worlds where men like him didn't belong, worlds that asked questions he didn't want to answer. For the next week, Arden avoided the main streets entirely. Across the city, Aurora refused to give up. She reviewed footage frame by frame, interviewing witnesses, even sending her personal assistant to the hospital to make sure no overlooked injuries had been treated. Nothing. It frustrated her more than any corporate negotiation ever had. She didn't know exactly why he mattered so much, only that he did. She wanted to thank him properly. She wanted to know the man who vanished before she could breathe. One bright afternoon, fate intervened again. Arden was repairing a stalled car on a quiet residential street. The sun cast soft light over the hood, and Tessa sat on the curb drawing on discarded cardboard with a marker. Arden had his head deep in the engine when a pair of elegant heels stopped near his feet. He looked up at the same hazel eyes that had widened beneath him in the crosswalk just days before. Aurora Landon stood there, breath catching in her throat. "It's you," she whispered. Arden froze, tools in hand. He had no exit this time. "Ma'am, I was just doing what anyone would." "No," she interrupted, softly but firmly, kneeling slightly so he didn't have to stand awkwardly. "Not anyone. Dozens of people were there that day. Only you moved." Her gaze flicked to Tessa, who smiled shyly and waved. Something softened further in Aurora's expression. "You saved my life, and then you ran before I could say thank you." Arden looked away, embarrassed. I didn't want attention." "I'm not here to give you attention," she said in a tone so gentle it startled him. "Just gratitude, and maybe a chance to understand the man who changed my life." Tessa tugged his sleeve and whispered, "Daddy, she seems nice." Aurora laughed softly. "I promise I'm not here to cause trouble." With a nervous sigh, Arden accepted her offer to buy them a late lunch. They ate at a small outdoor cafe, nothing fancy. Aurora insisted it was perfect. Her driver parked down the street, watching discreetly, though she waved him off when he tried to stand too close. Arden was surprised at how natural the conversation became about Tessa's love for astronomy, Arden's knack for fixing anything with wires, and Aurora's childhood fascination with taking apart computers. She told them the runaway truck's driver had suffered a medical emergency behind the wheel, and both he and the pedestrian he'd clipped had recovered fully. By the time lunch ended, Arden found himself saying something he rarely admitted aloud. "I'm just trying to keep life steady for her. It's been rough, but we're holding on." Aurora noticed the strain in his voice and didn't push. She only made a quiet promise inside her heart. He had saved her life. Now, without ever saying it aloud, she would try to help save his. The next afternoon, Arden returned to the garage only to find someone important waiting inside. Aurora stood near the service counter speaking with his boss, who looked both startled and intimidated. Arden's stomach twisted, but Aurora simply turned, her expression warm. "I hope you don't mind," she said. "I wanted to ask your manager if you might be available for a special contract." Arden blinked in confusion. "A contract?" "For Landon Innovations," she explained. "We need a lead technician for our new in-house maintenance division. Flexible hours, full benefits, and a salary that matches your skill, not your current circumstances." Arden's boss coughed and muttered something about an incredible opportunity before hurrying away. Arden stared at Aurora, overwhelmed. I don't know what to say. This is too much." "It isn't," she said firmly. "You saved my life. But this isn't repayment. This is recognizing someone who deserves more than life has given him." For the first time in years, Arden felt hope crack open inside his chest. He accepted the offer with a quiet thank you, while Tessa hugged Aurora's legs the moment she heard the news. The next few months blossomed into a whirlwind of change. Arden thrived in his new position, gaining confidence and stability. Tessa adjusted to a safer, brighter home after he cleared his overdue balance and moved them into a better apartment. Aurora became a steady presence, never intrusive, always purposeful. She attended Tessa's school science fair. She shared business advice with Arden. She even joined them for weekend walks in the park where sunlight filtered through the trees and laughter echoed like something long missing. Yet something else grew too, something quiet, unspoken, delicate. Aurora found herself drawn to Arden's calm strength, the way he listened without pretense. How he always knelt to Tessa's level instead of talking over her. And Arden found warmth in Aurora's gentle resilience, her thoughtful questions, her surprising sense of humor. But both